So, welcome to this 7th podcast, and it's about the art of listening. A very important subject. We often think we listen well, but I think many times it's not actually that we listen well. I think we actually only hear things. And listening, in my idea, is we've got to go much deeper, really intense. And I think it involves quite a lot of things. And even when looking at it, we can actually discover something about ourselves. It's not only about listening, it's about how we listen to people speaking and what we actually hear and register. That second thing, what do we register? We sometimes maybe listen, but then the next thing is, do we register it? Does it remain in the mind, in the memory? And often my experience is that it doesn't. Anyway, these are the things I would like to discuss today. And one possibility I would like to talk about to start with is one of the little ways I've discovered works wonderfully for learning to really listen. It's the following. The idea is I play one note and you tell me, or yourself actually in this case, you say what piece it's going to be. Try to guess the name of the piece from the way I play the note. It's very good training for pianists also, as a matter of fact, not only for the listener. I think it's one of the best things we can do. As Pablo Casals once said, the first note is maybe the most important note of a composition. Maybe true, maybe not completely true, but okay, it's in that direction. Here's the note. Listen to it. Now, I've given you quite a good chance. You should be able to find it from that, I think. Yeah? Just one note, it should be enough. I can hear it. I know which one it is, already from the way it's played. Did you get it? If you didn't get it, let's try with two notes. I'll give you another extra note. In this case, we have that's also possible. Now that should be easy, shouldn't it? Well, maybe not completely, but still, if you didn't get it, I wonder if you know when I play the piece at the beginning of the piece, which it is, what it is. It's the Traumerei von Schumann's Kinderscene in Opus 15. And it's just an idea of what I meant. But try this one. This is a different one again, if you know which piece this is going to be. Can you guess? Let me show you. Simple, huh? Simple. There's another way of looking at it. I think the art of listening has got a lot to do with the way we focus on something, with knowing what to listen for. It's just like when you go to a museum and you're walking around and you're looking at all these wonderful paintings and you see them. Of course, you see the painting, but you don't know always what's involved in that painting. You look at the painting and you think it's wonderful, and then you go to the next one and so on. But if you happen to do the same thing with someone who really knows what to look for, the guide can tell you, look at that there, that means that, and that was happening in those days, and that's the reason that's that color and that's been done in this way. Look at the way this is shaped in that corner on the right, you get the light. And that's working in that way, so you get a complete demonstration of what that painting is basically about. Same thing in music. Focusing on something is wonderful. Try this next thing. The thing is, let me just start very simple. Try to remember and think how many times you hear this note. Just listen. We'll do it, and you just listen to see if you can get what I'm talking about. Just listening to see how many times does that one note come. Maybe you've guessed it, maybe you haven't. But the thing is, it's a nice little test to see if we can really hear things. We concentrate on something. Now, this is important, not only for the fun of it. Of course, it's a quiz. I call it actually the Maggio quiz, maybe. Maybe you can invent a better name. But anyway, whatever, that's the idea. The thing is, just concentrating on that somehow gives us a good idea of how we actually listen to a piece of music. And if we're listening to a piece like I played of Schumann's Kinderszenen or something like that, I could even say the same thing of contemporary music, because actually the way we understand and listen to contemporary music involves very much how do we hear it? What do we actually hear? And we think we are hearing all dissonances and things. No, there's much more behind this. Much, much more. It's the way the piece is put together, how it hangs together, how it makes a complete entity. The whole piece is important, not just that one fragment. And we might hear dissonances, but that's not really the big issue. There were dissonances in the Grosse Fuge von Beethoven, for instance. In fact, in the days that was first performed, the critics of those days said they thought that the quartet was playing only wrong notes the whole time. And not only that, another one said it sounded even like Chinese. Well, whatever that may sound like, I don't know. But anyway, the idea, you get the idea. It's been always, even the music of Mozart was not always considered to be so simple. He was actually, if I remember rightly, in somewhere he's been criticized as writing 12-note music. Well, anyway, there are a few fugues of Mozart that are almost 12-note. Anyway, that's another area which we could go into later, and not to speak about Bach, who's done the most amazing things in his Kunst der Fuge, and so these are amazing masterpieces. Anyway, that's another thing. But let me, of course, as I said earlier in this whole podcast, my idea for these podcasts is spontaneous. I really try not to plan too much. I think such a lot is planned almost too much these days, and I want to do it spontaneously. So let me just talk now a little bit about something else. We spoke early about that one note, but listen to this piece. wonderful prelude by Chopin. Why did I play it? Of course, I think you already got the idea. The connection with that first little quiz of mine has got something to do with this piece too. It's the story of one note. The story of this note. And then this, and then coming back to the same. And then what we get then, one to repeat, and then the second repeat, and then we get this. And then it starts to tell the story. And then we have the first repeat and the second repeat. And then a sort of ending of the story. It's very important that we feel the way a note develops in a piece of music. I think that that is one way of actually not thinking too much about is there a dissonance or is there not a dissonance. Just listen to the journey of a note, how it works through a piece, how it develops, how it sometimes develops incredibly. I mean, there are pieces which have got such an amazing development, and that's something I think is very important. One or two things I've noticed about the listening. One thing I've noticed so often with working with young people, as really wonderful pianists they've often been, and the best thing they can do is to listen better, is to close their eyes, not to open the eyes, just to play. So you just get a different sound. You get more. It's just important to really get into the music. And this is what I would love to see, not only with older works from the pre-Baroque until now, including the contemporary music of now. I think we should really get into the soul of the music. And that's one of my big things I think is so important. How do we do that? How do we really get right into the music? Well, I've got a lot of ideas on that. This is just one thing, just following that. But there's another thing. For instance, I could show you this, if we just keep on with these preludes of Chopin, I think they were actually written with a little bit of this idea in mind. For instance, listen to this piece. Show something. What are we hearing? What is there to be heard? Of course, we get this. And then we get, of course, that little tail at the end. But then we get this. And that's what I want to discuss. Going to that note, this is the note somehow which is absolutely the basis of the piece, because there's a story behind it. First of all, we hear, and then it goes one higher, which actually makes that note even going even further. It's not just stopping, it's doing something. So. And then coming back to the same note. note very much related to the first note that I mentioned. Then at the end, back to that first note that I mentioned. Listen to this. All around that note, the note was of course the F sharp. But that's a dreadfully important thing, to feel how that changes the whole piece, how the piece all rotates around that note. And of course, we know it's very obvious, the top note is a B, and that's repeated many, many times in the piece. But that's not maybe the most important part of the melody line. The melody line is, of course, in the bass. So we get that sort of thing. This is what I would like to call the journey of a note. And I think there's something also we can concentrate on when we are listening. Try to find what is important in the piece. A note which seems to be longer and getting more attention than other notes. And also then you hear notes all around it being brought out to make it even stronger. Actually, you know, music has a lot of power, but it's not only the power of what it does, it's the things around it that give it even more power. I often like thinking even about dynamics. Some dynamics are what I would call, I wouldn't like to say the word banging, but very close to it. They're not really what I call dynamics. The dynamics are really those things which somehow imply a bigger tension, or a bigger, really much more development and much more depth, actually. That is what is a dynamic. Dynamics are dynamic. They are not just there just to, we put our fingers down, nothing. But then we do this, and we get a different thing. I'm trying to get now to a new point. It influences the way we play. The way we play, the way our body and everything works together to make the sound. And it's not just actually only the fingers. Fingers, of course, are dreadfully important, but they are not the only thing. What gives the timing and the feeling of what I call always organic piano playing, that is in fact very much the arms. The arms give the real timing. You see the following. If I do the following, I can do it in different ways. For instance, if I do this. Okay, it's all there, but I don't think it's anything. I would never accept it. I think we've got to find a way that these notes, the B's at the top, have a relationship to your arm. So we get... They breathe. It's got to breathe. It's just got to breathe. And if it doesn't breathe, then it's not even really getting to the heart of the music. The heart of the music, that's what so many things are about. If we get that, we find our inspiration. And not only that, we become creative, listening to how it develops and how it rounds itself off. Well, there are just a few thoughts, but I will get into some more ideas later in the next podcast. Thanks very much for listening.